The hopeless romantics is one of the most recognizable character types in modern television. They're the dreamers, the ones who believe love is written in the stars, that somewhere out there exists the person who will finally make their story complete. But How I Met Your Mother takes that familiar trope and gives it a darker, more tragic twist through Ted Mosby. A man who isn't really searching for love, but chasing the idea of it. From the very first episode, Ted defines himself by one goal: finding the one. Every decision he makes, every heartbreak, every impulsive declaration of love, all orbit around that obsession. What makes Ted so fascinating isn't that he's a hopeless romantic. It's that his version of romance is a fantasy, a projection of how he thinks love should look. He isn't just chasing affection, he's chasing a narrative. The slow dances, the blue French horn, the perfect timing, it's all part of a story he's desperate to see play out. And this obsession isn't unique to Ted. We've seen it before. Ross Geller in Friends, Tom Hansen in 500 Days of Summer, even Joe Goldberg from You If You Strip Away the Menace and Leave Only the Delusion. They don't fall in love with real people. They fall in love with what those people represent. They mistake longing for love and nostalgia for destiny. But what How I Met Your Mother does differently is that it holds a mirror up to that delusion. Across 9 seasons, it turns Ted's romantic idealism into a quiet tragedy, a story about how the pursuit of perfect love can become a self-inflicted wound. Because in the end, Ted Mosby doesn't find the one. He finds himself repeating the same story over and over, trying to make it mean something it never really did. Now, first we have to answer what exactly a hopeless romantic is. Well, the term itself has been romanticized for decades. It paints a picture of someone who believes in soulmates, destiny, and the kind of love that feels written by the universe. They're often portrayed as pure-hearted dreamers, people who want to be swept off their feet. But beneath all that warmth and charm lies something much heavier, something closer to obsession than devotion. A hopeless romantic doesn't just fall in love, they depend on it. Love becomes the lens through which they measure their worth. They crave that cinematic moment, the spark, the serendipity, the idea that everything will finally make sense once they meet the right person. But when you look closer, it's not the person they're after, it's the feeling. The high that comes with believing they've found the one. It's an addiction to the idea of love, not the reality of it. And like any addiction, it distorts everything else. Every heartbreak becomes unbearable, not because of loss, but because it shatters the fantasy. The hopeless romantic doesn't grieve the person, they grieve the story that could have been. And instead of breaking the cycle, they look for someone new to play the same role in the same script. You can see shades of this everywhere in pop culture. Ross Geller, who spends years chasing a version of Rachel that exists mostly in his nostalgia. Tom Hansen in 500 Days of Summer, who projects his ideals onto a woman who never promised to be his fantasy. Even characters like Bella Swan or Daphne Bridgerton fit the mold, people who equate intensity with destiny, passion with permanence. But Ted Mosby takes that archetype and pushes it further. Because unlike most of these characters, Ted's entire identity is built around his addiction to the idea of love. It's not a subplot, it's his defining trait. Every story he tells, every decision he makes, even the way he frames his own memories, all of it serves that obsession. And How I Met Your Mother knows this. The show gives us a character who doesn't just fall in love too easily. He falls in love for the sake of falling in love. Ted isn't searching for connection. He's searching for confirmation. He needs to believe that his life follows a pattern, that every heartbreak is leading him somewhere meaningful. In that sense, he's not so different from us. Because the hopeless romantic in Ted isn't just a sitcom trope. It's a reflection of a culture that taught us to mistake longing for love and love for purpose. For Ted Mosby, love was never something to stumble into. It was something he had to find. From the pilot episode, when he meets Robin and declares he's going to marry her, Ted doesn't fall in love. He assigns love. He meets someone, imagines a future, and then bends reality to fit the fantasy. It's not chemistry, it's storytelling. This is the essence of Ted's addiction. He's not chasing people, he's chasing meaning. Every relationship is treated like a prophecy being fulfilled, and when it collapses, He doesn't question the story, he questions himself for not playing it right. Take Victoria, one of Ted's most sincere relationships. They meet at a wedding, dance beneath fairy lights, and share the perfect kiss. A moment that could have ended any romantic comedy. But when life moves forward and distance enters the equation, Ted can't accept that love doesn't always survive logistics. Instead, he turns their story into mythology. When she reappears seasons later, he projects the same fantasy onto her again, like pressing replay on a memory that already ended. Then there's Robin, the ultimate symbol of Ted's romantic delusion. She tells him from the beginning that she doesn't want the same things he does. But Ted can't hear her because she doesn't fit into his idea of love. To him, she has to be the one, because the story doesn't make sense otherwise. And even when life repeatedly proves that they're incompatible, Ted clings to the narrative. He saves her locket. He shows up at her wedding. He stands under her window with that blue French horn, performing the same scene again, years later. A full circle moment that feels sweet until you realize it's just another relapse. It's in those gestures, the grand confessions, the timing, the callbacks, that we see how Ted's belief in the one isn't romantic, it's ritualistic. He's repeating a pattern. Every woman he meets becomes a vessel for his idea of love. Stella, Zoe, even Tracy. He doesn't truly see them. He sees how they could complete his narrative. In a way, Ted's pursuit mirrors something we've all internalized. We're told that love is supposed to be the ending, the reward after the struggle, the proof that we've lived a meaningful life. Ted just takes that idea to its extreme. His need to be in love becomes the scaffolding for his identity. Without it, he doesn't know who he is. But How I Met Your Mother subtly dismantles this fantasy. It shows that Ted's search for the one doesn't make him fulfilled. It makes him lonely. The more he clings to the idea of perfect love, the further he drifts from real connection. By the time he finally meets Tracy, the woman he's been chasing in his head for years, the story doesn't end with triumph. It ends with loss. The show doesn't reward Ted for believing in destiny. It quietly shows the cost of that belief. Because the truth is, Ted Mosby's tragedy isn't that he couldn't find the one. It's that he couldn't stop believing he needed one to feel complete. For most people, heartbreak is something you move through. For Ted Mosby, it's something he returns to. Every time a relationship ends, Ted doesn't grow. He resets. It's as if he's addicted not to the person, but to the process. The thrill of dealing, the comfort of fantasizing, the drama of losing. It's a cycle that defines his entire adult life, and it's one he never truly escapes. In the early seasons, you can already see the pattern forming. He meets someone, idealizes them instantly, builds a story in his head, and then watches it collapse under the weight of his own expectations. Robin, Stella, Zoe. The names change, but the rhythm doesn't. Each woman becomes a stand-in for the last. Each breakup becomes proof that the universe is testing him, not a sign that he's repeating the same mistake. This is what makes Ted's version of love so quietly tragic. He confuses emotional intensity with emotional truth. The butterflies, the speeches, the music swelling in the background, that's what convinces him it is real. But the reality is that those moments are just part of the high. The come down always follows. You can see it most clearly in his behavior after Robin. No matter how much time passes, he can't let go of her, not because they're meant to be together, but because she represents the idea he's addicted to. She's the symbol of his story, the love that got away, the one that makes his suffering poetic. To Ted, losing Robin isn't just heartbreak, it's mythology. What's fascinating is that the show doesn't treat this cycle as a joke, it treats it like a mirror. We watch Ted fall, recover, and repeat, and we start to realize how familiar it feels, because in some way, we've all done it. Rewritten a memory to make it hurt less, romanticized someone who didn't love us back, turned pain into proof that we're capable of great love. Ted just externalizes what most people hide. His entire narration, the framing device of him telling his kids the story, is his way of trying to justify the pattern. He's not just telling them how he met their mother. He's trying to convince himself that every wrong turn had meaning. It's an addict's logic. Every mistake becomes necessary. Every heartbreak becomes noble. And that's the subtle brilliance of How I Met Your Mother. It disguises a story about romantic addiction inside a sitcom about destiny. It makes us root for Ted, even as we recognize that he's stuck in a loop of his own making. Because at some point, it stops being about finding the one. It becomes about trying to prove that all the pain was worth it. Every obsession leaves behind collateral damage. For Ted Mosby, that damage isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet. It lives in the silences between his grand gestures, in the way his relationships always seem to crumble under the weight of what they're supposed to mean. When you build your life around the idea of perfect love, you start treating people like proof. They're not individuals with their own stories. They're puzzle pieces meant to complete yours. And that's what Ted does, often without realizing it. You can see it in the way he treats Robin. Every time she tries to move on, Ted finds a way to pull her back. Not because he's selfish, but because he's desperate to keep the narrative alive. When she's happy, he confesses again. When she's at peace, he rewrites the story. To him, losing her isn't losing a person. It's losing the ending he's been chasing for years. His friends see it happen over and over. Marshall and Lily become emotional caretakers, constantly reminding him that love will find him, as if it's a reward he's earned through persistence. Even Barney, the serial womanizer, grows out of his performance of romance faster than Ted does. And then there are Ted's kids, who sit through hours of his story, a story less about how he found love and more about how he could never let it go. That's the hidden cost of idealizing love. It makes everything temporary. When you're chasing a fantasy, reality never feels like enough. Ted finally gets what he's been waiting for: Tracy, the perfect partner, the family, the ending. And yet, when that story ends, he doesn't grieve. He searches for another beginning. It's not about her anymore. It's about keeping the feeling alive. And that's what makes Ted Mosby more than just a character. He's a mirror. He represents the part of all of us that wants life to feel like a story, that wants our suffering to add up to something beautiful. We romanticize longing, we glorify heartbreak, we confuse persistence for passion. Ted just does it out loud. How I Met Your Mother understands this better than most love stories. It shows us how easily love turns into self-deception, how the dream of love can replace love itself. Ted's story resonates because it's not just his flaw, it's ours. We all want to believe that the right person can fix us, that the right ending can justify everything that came before. But maybe love was never supposed to fix us. Maybe it's just meant to teach us that we were never broken,